At the end of the previous scene, one woman was designated as the chosen one, selected for ritual sacrifice to appease the sun god and ensure the fertility of the soil and the tribe. She remains motionless on the stage. In this scene, the other dancers exult in the forthcoming sacrifice with an outburst of wild, violent energy. This scene is the epitome in the ballet of the masculinized military expressive mode. But there is a dispute in the literature about whether the exulting, violent, martial dancers are men or women. According to Kraft, the women depart at the end of Mystic Circle, and the composer imagined the next dance, the naming and honoring of the chosen one, as a choreographic hocket, a ricochet of movement from stage left to stage right, the men on one side leaping during the rhythmic groups of threes, those on the other side leaping during the rhythmic groups of twos. Stravinsky's own comments, however, contradict this view. She enters a stone labyrinth, and the other maidens celebrate her in a wild martial dance. The young girls dance about the elect, a sort of glorification. One of Stravinsky's early ideas was that this would be a scene for Amazons, female warriors, and his compositional sketchbook calls this scene glorification, savage dance, Amazons. The virgins honor her, the chosen one, with a martial dance. They invoke the ancestors and entrust the chosen one to the wise old men. The Hodson-Nijinsky choreography affirms this as a dance for the young women, who take turns to frighten the chosen one, preparing her for the ordeal of her sacrificial dance. They jump and beat their chests and brandish their fists. They run in a pack to isolate the chosen one, who remains impassive and motionless throughout. In this choreography, and in Stravinsky's vision, the choosing and celebration of the chosen one is a female act. Indeed, the young men do not appear at all in part two of the ballet. When the men return to the stage in the next scene, they will be in the guise of old wise men, tribal elders, and tribal ancestors. But if this scene is a women's dance, it is nonetheless a masculinized, Amazonian, violent, martial dance in what I have been calling a military expressive mode. The scene is in a large three-part ABA form. The A section is pounding, percussive, and violent, with extremely rapid changes of material within the blocks. I'll call these sub-blocks, and I'll label them with lowercase letters. There are two distinct melodies, one based on 0134, which we've not heard before, and the other based on 0135, which is an unusual way of filling a framing perfect fourth. Both melodies attract a particularly pungent and dissonant form of planing based on the alternation of 5 and 6 with 6 and 5, and both are heard in a hocketing alternation with a pounding pedal tone on a low A. The A has global significance in the ballet. It is the implied tonic of the opening folk melody, and, in alternation with C, the principal bass tone of the sacrificial dance. Its use in this scene, and even more in the sacrificial dance, represents a demonic inversion of the pastoral opening, from something gentle and lyrical to a wild, violent, and ultimately catastrophic dance. An irregular bass pedal on A binds block 1 together as a unit. The A marks the downbeats of each measure amid a shifting meter. We hear two statements of the A material, a single statement of B, and then 3 more statements of A. Amid the shifting meter, it is possible to discern a basically duple arrangement, with each implied measure of 2/4 expanded or contracted by the insertion or deletion of eighth note beats. This implied underlying 2/4 ties this passage to the most military topic of all, the march, of which this music represents an aggressive distortion. The melody for the A material, naming and honoring one, features a descending minor third, the most common melodic reference in the ballet, within a four-note melodic frame, D sharp, E, F sharp, G. This is not a melodic frame we have heard before in the ballet, but it can be related by fixed dyadic voice leading to the melodies we have heard recently. In transforming those melodies intervallically, it also transforms the expressive mode from pastoral to military. The melody is accompanied by distinctive and highly dissonant planing, in which 5 plus 6 oscillates with 6 plus 5. Dissonant planing is associated with the violence of the military expressive mode. There are two chords in an irregular alternation, labeled X and Y, with occasional interjections of Z, which is a slight variant of X. Chords X and Y can be related to the two 5 plus 6 or 6 plus 5 chords embedded in the big repeated polychord at the end of the previous scene. The intervals of transposition that connect the chords are the same as the intervals found within it. If we add the bass note A into the harmonic mix, we observe that together with Y, we now get a form of 0137, which we have learned to understand as a minor triad with a semitone distractor. In this case, it's F sharp minor with a G. Chords of this type are linked as a sequence of transpositions at T7. Block 2 is concerned with an alternation of two chunks, which I've labeled C and D. There are also brief interjections of A from Block 1, which I will not discuss here. In the chunk called C, there are three elements: a chromatic cascade, a big chord to which the cascade leads, and a disjunct fanfare melody. All were given a preview in Block 10 of the previous scene. The arrival chord in chunk C is G, C sharp, F sharp in the familiar 6 plus 5 equals 11 arrangement. The D material involves a rapid oscillation of two pairs of chords. Both chords in the first pair are also in the familiar 5 plus 6 equals 11 or 6 plus 5 equals 11 arrangements. We can bring all of these chords into a network with the other such chords we have recently encountered. It turns out that the chord pair in D is the same as the 11-fold repeated chord at the end of Mystic Circle, and the arrival chord in chunk C is the same as chord Y from Block 1. Block 3 concludes the first large section of the music. Blocks 1 through 3 together comprise the A section of a large ABA form. It contains two distinct components: the A material with the naming and honoring 1 melody, already discussed with reference to Block 1, and a progression of first 3, then 4 chords, best thought of as extensions of the B material. The progression consists of a melody and a mostly parallel planing accompaniment. We focus here on the 4-chord version. The melody, which I'm calling Naming and Honoring 2, moves through a perfect fourth like so many melodies in this ballet. Although the perfect fourth is filled in as a Phrygian rather than a Dorian tetrachord, it may nonetheless recall an earlier melody within the same G-C frame, although expressively remote. In both instances, the young women are dancing, and the G-C frame is identified with them, but the expressive impact of their dance has shifted dramatically from a lyrical pastoral mode to a violent military mode. The naming and honoring two melody is supported by mostly parallel planing, parallel 11s between soprano and tenor, divided by the alto as either 5+6 or 6+5. We add these to our emerging network. In contrast to the first section, which was highly dissonant and chromatic, the second section is a bit more consonant and mostly diatonic. It's in F Phrygian. The first section was grounded on an irregular pedal on A. The second section is grounded on a steady quarter note pulsation on F. Both sections are loud and aggressive in military mode, but the second section nonetheless suggests a contrasting second theme area. In Block 4, we have steady quarter note pulsations in 3-4 or 4-4, interspersed with outbursts in 3-8. This block introduces an important new melody, which I'm calling Naming and Honoring 3. It joins a growing class of 0-2-4-6 based melodies, which are generally associated with wild violent dances like this one. Fixed dyad voice leading weaves this melody into a network with other melodies, reaching back to the first iteration of the old woman's melody from the introduction to Part 1, and encompassing melodies associated with the young women in pastoral mode. Within this network, we find different musical expressions of the female, old or young, pastoral, or military, that is, Amazonian. The harmony layer is focused entirely on a single note, F, decorated with upper and lower neighbors, E natural and G flat. Taking the F, C in the harmony together with the G flat C in the melody, we have a larger frame that replicates the lower chord from the 11-fold repeated polychord at the end of the previous scene. In Block 5, a 5-measure block, the last 4 measures are a continuation of Block 4, with G flat, A flat, B flat, C in the melody, and F in the harmony. The first measure of the block, however, introduces a melody that is a variant of Naming and Honoring 2, and attracts the same sort of 5+6 or 6+5 planing accompaniment. The new melody also has a strong affiliation with the young women's melody from Augurs of Spring. Same focus on the young women, same melodic frames, same transposition up a minor third, but different expressive mode, from lyrical pastoral to violent military. The melody attracts a distinctive planing accompaniment. Overall, the chords follow the melodic line up and down by minor third, following the B-flat, D-flat melody in mostly parallel motion, but not strictly parallel. Each chord is arranged as either 5 plus 6 equals 11 or 6 plus 5 equals 11. As we have noted, dissonant planing like this is associated with cacophonous wild dances. We can add the first and last of these chords to our emerging network of 5 plus 6 or 6 plus 5 harmonies, in which forms of that chord are projected mostly by transposition up or down by two of the intervals the chord contains, namely 1 and 5. The resulting common tones serve to bind the network together. Block 6 uses material from previous blocks, especially the naming and honoring 2 melody with its planing accompaniment. The bass continues as before, with F elaborated with upper and lower neighbors, now in a 2-beat ostinato pattern. The melody and dissonant planing accompaniment, previewed at the beginning of the previous block, fills out this block in a pattern of alternating groups of 5 and 6 beats. The bass pattern and the melody pattern align in shifting ways. The bass ostinato continues as before on F, as is the B-flat C D-flat melody, which I'm calling naming and honoring 2. In addition, we get 3 statements of a new melodic figure, a sort of cadential fanfare. It attracts a modest planing accompaniment in which each melodic note is shadowed by a dissonance 1 or 2 semitones away. This new melody connects closely with other melodies from this scene, mostly through maintenance of B-flat C as a common element and the adjustment of the remaining notes or dyads by semitone. B-flat C is an extraordinarily potent unifying motivic cell in this ballet. We will see its apotheosis in the sacrificial dance. This is the final block in the B section of this ABA scene, and it concludes with a cadential progression. The melody for the progression is closely related to the melody we just discussed. They share A-flat, B-flat, C. One extends it upward by minor third to E-flat, while the other extends it downward by minor third to F. The final chord is yet another of the 5 plus 6, 6 plus 5 type, the last new iteration in this scene. The A section is about to repeat. Structural harmonies are formed between the layers, combining the harmonic frame and the melodic frame. In this scene, the structural harmonies are forms of 0, 1, 3, 7 related to T-1. Large-scale semitonal descents like this one are emblems of lament and loss. The A music returns in this ABA form scene, a slightly compressed repeat of the opening A section. The return of the A section, which I'm dividing into 2 blocks. Block 8 corresponds mostly to Block 1, while Block 9 corresponds mostly to Block 3. We'll listen to them as a single unit, and I won't be offering any additional analytical commentary.